Now let's talk tomatoes. Look at these guys. My tomato plants are absolutely loaded. Look at this. Tomato right there. Look at the tomatoes in there. Just loaded. Look at those guys. Look at that one. More tomatoes. More tomatoes. More tomatoes. Everywhere you look, I got tomatoes. More tomatoes. Look at those guys. That's a nice little cluster of tomatoes right there. And we're just getting started. The tomato season is just starting. Now, what do tomatoes need? Number one, they need good soil. My soil is rich in compost, worm castings, azomite rock dust, and coconut coir. Now, the coconut coir doesn't have much nutrient value to it, but what it does is it retains the moisture in the soil. Moisture. Tomatoes like a very consistent moisture level in the soil. And that's hard to do, especially if you live in an arid climate like me. So what I do is I mulch, and I mulch heavily. Pollination. Tomatoes are self-pollinating, but if you don't, like right now, my tomatoes are coming on early, okay? I don't have a lot of bees in my area this time of year. So, no bees, no pollination, no tomatoes. So what I'll do is every morning I'll come out here. It's best to do it in the morning because that's when the pollen is at its prime. You'll see this cluster of flowers, these tomato blossoms. What I'll do is I'll just come in here and I'll shake the whole plant. You can't come up here and tap each individual blossom or the cluster of blossoms. I've even seen people get a toothbrush and bzzz, hit it like that. That just takes too much time, and it's not any more effective than coming in here and just getting a hold of the plant and shaking it. Just go all the way down my row of tomatoes and give it a quick shake in the morning. And by doing that, I have excellent pollination on my tomatoes. Obvious. Do you see what's going on? So I got about 30 feet of tomatoes here. I got them planted about 10 inches apart. And 10 inches apart works for me because I'm in a very arid and dry climate. If you're somewhere where you have a lot of humidity and it's really, really wet, 10 inches apart is too close. And here's an example of what I do. Here I got the main stem of the tomato, and I'm wrapping them right up this stringer. As it grows, I'll just wrap them around like this. And what that does, that's going to anchor that tomato plant right in place. Give it some stability to support the weight of the tomatoes and the additional branching it's going to throw off. So let's recap what we just talked about for a second. You need good soil, living soil. Let me touch on that for a second. I don't use any chemical fertilizers, okay? I'm also a no-till gardener. I don't till my soil. The soil these tomatoes are in right now, that's 7 years. That's 7 years of building that soil. So if you're just starting out and you're putting in your soil in your garden beds for the first time, your results aren't going to be what you see here, typically, okay? Building soil takes time. My soil is bioactive, it's living, and it produces me very nice crops. Whatever I put here does well. And I'm doing the same principles and same practices everywhere where I have crops. So, good soil, number one. Consistent moisture level in the soil. You can accomplish that by using coconut coir. You can also use peat moss, but I encourage everybody to use coconut coir because it's a far more renewable resource. Mulch. Mulch your tomatoes heavily. That's going to help. That is probably the thing that's, other than good soil, mulching has helped my tomatoes tremendously, especially extending them longer into the growing season. And pollination, okay? If you got your tomatoes coming on, you ain't have the bees in your area, you gotta hand pollinate if you want tomatoes. It's that simple. And I've shown you how easy it is. It takes no time at all. Even if you had hundreds of feet of tomatoes, if you had 8 rows of 50 feet of tomatoes, it would take you 15 minutes to walk down those rows, and just as you're going, just shake your plants. And that is an effective way of pollinating your tomatoes. Alright guys, that's going to do it for today. You know what to do. Like, comment, subscribe. If you want to follow me on social media, I got all my social media links in a more detailed box below. and I'll see you on my next video.